Hey everyone, it's Brandt here, back in the shop, ready to work on another project, and thanks for coming with me. So I was recently asked to help build a small sign, something of a handheld prop. And of course I couldn't just stop at making a simple sign, but decided to take it a step further and make it into a sign that lights up. Now I had a couple restrictions. I had a very short time frame and pretty much zero budget. So thanks to having a couple constraints, I was able to stretch my creativity and come up with an interesting solution that I thought I'd share with you here. So this project starts out with one of these 27 LED Harbor Freight flashlights. And thanks to their abundance of coupons, I've managed to pick up a number of these flashlights for free. So we have a cheap source of lots of LEDs that run off battery that will work perfect for a portable LED sign. Now to get all the components we'll need, we'll have to take apart the flashlight and pull out everything we can use. Now here's the main circuit board with the 24 LEDs that we'll be using. From the battery compartment you can find the positive terminal and flip it over to find the wire that connects to. We'll mark that. And trace that wire to the board to find where the positive voltage comes in. So you can see on the back of the circuit board here where the positive voltage comes in, runs along through this resistor, and then connects out to the positive side of every one of these 24 LEDs. And the way they're arranged in 4 lines should work out nicely for this project. We can cut the circuit board apart and preserve most of that wiring. We'll be cutting this apart so that the resistor on the end here stays connected with one of the strips of 6 LEDs. On the left here is our on-off switch, and then the rest of the LEDs will be cut into 4 strips. Now I've already cut off the on-off switch here, but before I cut apart the rest of the board, I want to make sure I get rid of that spotlight effect on the 24 LEDs, so the light can get diffused and spread out more evenly. So to do that, we'll take it to the belt sander, sand all of them down flat, and now that nice, flat, rough top on the LED will help the light spread evenly. Now to connect these all together into one long strip, we'll be adding some wire to the positive and negative sides of each LED. So all the positive leads are connected together with red wires, or it could be any colored wire if you choose. And the negative sides are all connected together with these black wires. This way our 24 LEDs will be running in parallel once again, just like they were before. Now to test this out quick, we can put the batteries back in, hook it up with a couple alligator clips, run the positive voltage so it goes through the resistor, and the negative to any one of the negative points. And we can see that all 24 LEDs are lighting up, and this should work nicely. And to finish up our LED strip, we'll just solder on a couple extra long wires onto the end here, which we can hook up to our switch and battery later. Now to keep this whole LED strip assembly rigid and stable, I just hot glued the entire thing down to this strip of wood, which is actually just a paint stick, and that held everything in place. Now the flashlight's power switch is interesting in that it was designed to switch on and off between 2 different circuits, the small light and the big light. So to get it working for just one light, we can take these 2 connections that the switch toggles between, connect them with a wire, and now every time we push the button, it will click on, click off, just on one circuit. For the main body of the sign, I just built a simple box using 1/2" MDF and rabbet joints on the corners. This was glued up, clamped together, and then I added a small face frame on the front with 1/4" MDF, and each of those sides are about 3/4 inch wide. The edges were cleaned up on the router, and everything was sanded smooth. The back panel was made from a 1/4" piece of MDF to the same dimensions as the outside of the box, and an 1/8" piece of MDF matched to the inside of the box. This is where we'll install all the electronics. I wanted to keep everything contained inside the box, so in order to get the batteries to fit, I had to make a new battery compartment. This is just a 3/4 inch piece of plywood with a groove cut out just big enough for a AAA battery. This piece on the end will hold our positive terminal for the battery compartment. We'll just mark the battery location with a pencil and attach one of the metal connectors from the flashlight's battery compartment here with a little super glue and a shot of activator to harden it up. Mount it in place, and you've got a positive connection. For a negative terminal, I took the negative terminal out of the battery compartment of the flashlight and just glued it onto another piece of wood here with a little super glue and activator. Next, the battery compartment was glued into place, and the negative terminal was glued into place at just the right distance so that the spring would be compressed when the positive side was closed. To mount the power switch, a 1/2 inch square was drilled and chiseled out to fit the switch, and then held in place with a couple of the original screws from the flashlight's case. With all the components installed, we can start cutting down the wires coming off of our LED strip and soldering them into place to complete our circuit. The negative wire gets soldered to one end of the power switch, and another negative wire connects to the negative terminal on the battery compartment, which then connects back to the power switch. And on the positive end, we'll open up this metal piece a little bit, just enough to fit the positive wire through, and solder it into place. Add a little hot glue to keep our wires in place. And our circuit is complete. Just insert 3 AAA batteries. Insert it into the body of the sign, and you can see the box keeps the batteries in place. However, they're a bit loose. That spring isn't getting compressed as far as it needs to, and we're getting a loose connection. So we just add a little spacer here to the positive end, and we're back in business. Now we're getting a nice tight connection to that negative terminal. Turn it on. Make sure the batteries don't come loose. And this should work great. Now I would have preferred a white acrylic for the front of our sign, but all I had was clear. So I took 2 pieces and sanded them on one side and stacked them up together on the sign here to make a nice, fairly opaque front. These were secured in place with a couple wood blocks screwed into the box frame. And this way everything could be taken apart if we ever need to modify or repair it in the future. Now all that's left is to install our back panel. Drill a couple screw holes, and since the MDF is so soft, I just did the countersinking by hand. Run in a couple wood screws and we're done. Now for the front of the sign, you could just put in a piece of paper with your artwork, but in my case I have to go out to the bandsaw and cut out a bunch of letters that'll get super glued onto the front. But in the interest of time, I'll just leave you with this.